My favourite word is a word said by our scholar, Austin Powers. I think that the best word is shagalicious. Because honestly, you know where you stand when you say, she's looking pretty fucking shagalicious. Thank you. I'm Tom Wells. I've been doing comedy now for just under a year. I met Elliot a couple of years ago now at a society fair. He was the first person I spoke to, and he's sort of become quite a surprisingly big part of my day-to-day life at this point. When I first joined the Comedy Society, I didn't really have any interest in doing stand-up, and then about a month or two in is when I really started to get to know everyone. What interests you in comedy then? Like, what's drawn you to stick with it for that many years?
I said it's the acting part. I always enjoyed being on a stage, being the centre of attention, and just being able to make people laugh is a nice thing to do.
It's one journey, and go!
Well, I've always been interested in comedy. When I was like 8, I always told my mum that I wanted to be a comedian, and then I went to acting school, did a lot of comedy stuff there, and now I'm at uni. I've actually done stand-up comedy.
So what's the best way you would describe your comedic stylings?
I guess the way I describe it to most people is just like dark one-liners, kind of Jimmy Carr style, or Bo Burnham style kind of darkness.
Did you know your digestive system is 30 feet long if you stretch it out? My friend, who was 30 feet away, was really surprised.
I describe my styling as sort of more of a storyteller, because a lot of my jokes are not practiced. I've got like about 3 points, and I change a lot of them because I don't like telling the same joke every time. I was watching an old black and white movie recently. I was watching Schindler's List. And I tell you what, you remember the little girl in the red coat? They killed her off. They killed the only coloured character in the entire fucking film.
I kind of admire that, being able to just go on about 3 separate points for the whole thing.
The society helped me massively because during when I first started was during my massive depressive episode. My depression has sort of been prevalent for a good number of years, but it didn't really surface heavily until about 2-3 years ago, where it really got bad and I had a mental break. I'd say the Comedy Society really helped us with finding other people to like help cope.
The people that I met while doing comedy are definitely one of the best people I've met in my life, because not only do you have a lot of stuff in common, a lot of people who are involved in comedy are pretty depressed themselves, and so you can connect to them on many levels. Just in terms of if you have the same sense of humour as them, it's a pretty great connection you get. I first developed depression maybe around year 9, so I must have been about 14. It was around the same time my granddad passed, and it just wasn't a great time.
I don't know about you, but when I've told, it was specifically my family, that I do comedy, but then I follow it up later on with a bit of a depressive episode, they just don't seem to understand that just because I make other people laugh doesn't mean that I'm also happy. Does depression actually come into your set at all, or like affect or influence the jokes you make?
I think it definitely helps with the deadpan delivery and the cynical writing side.
Do you know what the sort of root cause is for your depression?
I never really knew if there was a root cause. It was around the same time my granddad died, but I don't know if it was to do with that, because now looking back at it, I think it's more of a chemical thing than an actual childhood thing.
Elliot is a great friend because he has helped me cope with my depression for a couple of years now. Since I've met him, he's been quite helpful and always been there for any of the periods where I sort of needed him, because I didn't really have anyone before he came along to talk to openly about that sort of stuff, and it really helped strengthen our relationship. I mean, we've been there for each other occasionally, you know.
Occasionally?
Occasionally.
All right. I'll try my best.
But there was one time, a couple months ago now, if not a bit longer, where we were both in a pretty bad place.
Oh, was this the walk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, it was after a gig or after a meeting or something like that, and I was just fuming about something. Yeah, that was it's a night that I'll look back on with some fondness, other than the fact it wasn't a very nice topic. But
Yeah, I don't think any of us were really in a good mood that night.
no,
It's always nice to, talk to someone, and even just going outside for a walk is nice.
yeah, it's nice to have someone that you can vent to that isn't family.
I'd say it definitely solidified our bond.
Definitely. When Elliot leaves, I'm not actually too sure what to do. It's going to be really weird without him around, because he was there from day one. To then, for him to just, leave, it's going to be really strange.